One of life's biggest challenges is how one must shoulder social and personal expectations placed upon them. Upholding those expectations is a sign to others of one's ability and willingness to make sacrifices to meet what is expected. However, there is a danger in focusing too much on meeting those expectations, as there is a risk of sacrificing too much for the sake of the performance, in so much that one can lose sight of something important. Rondo's Miyake Aoi is D4DJ's token example of this paradigm, as such a character is a teaching tool in storytelling to pass on a very valuable lesson about facing expectation with maturity. Aoi is an interesting character because of how she embodies the tension between meeting social expectations and accepting personal feelings. Aoi at first glance is very proper, stoic, and aloof, as expected of the cool one of Rondo's 4-girl gang trope. This makes sense, as Aoi is the DJ and leader of Rondo. D4DJ's more serious unit, at least before Abyssmare, having a 2000s punk rock aesthetic. I am old. This immediately triggers the audience to question what sort of person lies underneath the professional persona. In other words, how much of Aoi do we really know, and what is Aoi sacrificing in order to maintain the professional performance? There is an additional layer to Aoi's performance and what others expect from her, and that is in regards to the issue of her androgyny. Despite her attire and appearance being very masculine, it is more important to look at how she acts masculine. Even though the main cast of D4DJ is 100% female, Aoi is very business focused, which doesn't seem at all that masculine in a vacuum. But when compared to the rest of Rondo, who are more concerned of the art of Rondo, Aoi is very calculating in how she treats the Rondo brand. For instance, at the end of D4 Fest 2, Aoi makes the decision that Rondo is going to expand their music to an international audience. Even when Abyssmare shows up on the scene and challenges the other units, Aoi is more concerned with Rondo's international branding as a business, instead of viewing Abyssmare's challenge as personal, unlike Tsubaki and Nagisa. Aoi also possesses gentlemanly mannerisms in her politeness and how she talks to and treats others. Aoi always takes great care to speak gently to other characters and goes out of her way to help those in need. For instance, Aoi is very mindful of Hiro's claustrophobia and even rushes to Hiro's apartment when called during a blackout. There is also the My Prince story, where Aoi helps Haruna memorize script lines with no expectation for reward. Then there is the physical protection Aoi gives to Tsubaki and Haruna, causing the two to constantly swoon over her. This of course is why there are so many Aoi ships in the D4DJ community, but I digress. Aoi's masculine energy in these moments is an interesting way to set up scenarios where there are strong tensions between what people, both inside and outside of D4DJ, expect from Aoi and what Aoi really desires. I wanted to point out that on a meta level, there is an expectation for Aoi to fulfill some sort of masculine quota. At least one would think that, with how Aoi is the token character that wears male outfits for various event themes featuring Rondo. An example of this is when Rondo acts as servants for Miyu in the Tonight a Special Time for You event. While Hiro, Tsubaki, and Nagisa wear maid outfits, Aoi is wearing a butler suit. Again, in the Eyes Dazzled by Mist, Raspity of Wavering Hearts event, Aoi wears a full debonair style suit, which to be fair does look super classy, while the other Rondo members wear more revealing outfits. Aoi's masculine behavior is reinforced by having masculine outfits, which does allow her to stand out not just among the Rondo members, but amongst the entire D4DJ cast. Within the D4DJ narrative, living up to the masculine expectations of protection and gentlemanly mannerisms, Aoi is forced to sacrifice her desires to be feminine. This is the central focus of the My Prince relation story. Since the beginning of Groovy Mix, despite Aoi's androgynous appearance, she once looked very feminine. I'd also like to point out that Aoi and Tsubaki have a very similar phenotype. Kinda weird. Tsubaki asks Aoi about her life back then, but Aoi tells her that it's a thing of the past and she's used to the way she is now. In My Prince, the subject of Aoi's past is brought up again, but with Haruna instead of Tsubaki. When Haruna sees the picture of Aoi with long hair, Aoi reveals that she would like to go back to that look and considers growing her hair out. However, when Aoi goes to her hairdresser, the hairdresser mentions about how handsome Aoi is. Aoi hesitates in pursuing her desire to grow her hair out. We are reminded that Aoi has become so used to the tomboy image that she has cultivated over the years, that she reflexively abandons her personal desires just so she doesn't upset others by changing up her image. The thesis of My Prince is pointed out in a conversation between Tsubaki and Haruna. For context, Haruna was asked to perform the role of Romeo in a school Romeo and Juliet play. Haruna gets help from Aoi, who reads the Juliet lines for her. Despite reading the Juliet lines, Haruna believes that Aoi matches the gentlemanly qualities of Romeo a lot better, if not perfectly. Tsubaki tells Haruna that by thinking of Aoi that way shows how little Haruna actually knows about Aoi. Haruna is taken aback by this, but this revelation shows the reader how much Aoi has sacrificed in order to present a tough masculine image. Haruna is forced to reevaluate her opinion of Aoi and read between the lines of Aoi's desire to be feminine. The climax of My Prince has Aoi see Haruna before the school play begins, and of course, in typical anime fashion, there is a crisis where the girl playing Juliet is sick, so the students are considering canceling the play, but Haruna suggests that Aoi plays the role of Juliet, since Aoi already knows all the lines. There is an interesting dynamic here. On the one hand, Aoi is still playing the expected masculine heroic role of coming to Haruna's aid. The protective and caring parts of Aoi that Haruna is attracted to are on full display. Aoi will always find herself in a situation where she cannot help but be the cavalry to the plight of a fair maiden, which D4DJ is full of. On the other hand, Aoi is confronted with how much she has sacrificed in order to uphold the expectation of others. When Haruna suggests that Aoi take the Juliet role, Aoi is quick to object because of the idea of wearing a dress. This moment puts on display just how distant Aoi has become from her femininity and is confronted with her self-denials. It is only when Haruna calls Aoi adorable and alluring that Aoi concedes to play the role of Juliet. My Prince ends with Haruna thanking Aoi for her help, but more importantly, Aoi confesses to Haruna of denying her feelings and is willing to engage with her more feminine side. I want to give an added commentary to this story beyond my initial analysis of the story back in my cross-unit relation story tier list and go into the topic of masculinity and femininity. Revisiting My Prince for this essay, a line that stood out to me was when Haruna says, "Aoi-san, you need to not feel bashful at all. That humility of yours is yet another part of your charm." I wish Haruna was able to expand on this, but the story needs to wrap up, so I'm going to give some thoughts here. Aoi, like most people, has a rigid view of masculinity and femininity, This is evident by her objection to wearing the dress, because she doesn't view herself as feminine, which seems pretty, like, minute and a non sequitur at the grand scheme of things. But Aoi is focused on the visual presentation of femininity, but Haruna is focused on Aoi's inner character. Because once you get past Haruna's simping, the most important quality of Aoi that Haruna highlights is her humility, and that is what makes her charming and feminine. Well, at least feminine enough to be Juliet on stage. In highlighting Aoi's humility, Haruna is honing in on qualities to femininity that most people overlook. Femininity and masculinity are less about things like personal interests and stylistic aesthetic, and more to do with how people relate to each other. Despite being Rondo's leader, Aoi acts more like a servant to others by putting her personal feelings aside for the sake of others. Aoi's ability to make great sacrifices for the sake of others is what makes her feminine, as she thinks of others more than she thinks of herself. Aoi thus acts in a way that she submits to others, and that humility is what Tsubaki and Haruna see as Aoi's charm. Ironically, Aoi's sacrificial actions are what define her relationships, and that is what makes her feminine. In a vacuum, My Prince is a nice enough story that dives into Aoi's issue of living up to expectations placed upon her. However, there are two problems here. The first problem is that despite the cute resolution for Aoi to start acting more feminine, we do not really see that in subsequent stories of Aoi. Almost as bad as American comic books, where writers want to make changes to characters, but then have to reboot them in order to return to a status quo.
Can we please?
Oh, so sorry, Deadshot. Are we interrupting your being strapped to a gurney?
Isn't Deadshot supposed to be white?
Aoi is one such victim of maintaining this status quo in D4DJ's writing, so we don't see her actually pursue this goal, since Aoi is obligated to stick to the tomboy image established since D4DJ's inception. The second problem is that despite Tsubaki chewing out Haruna for not knowing the real Aoi, it turns out that apparently no one in Rondo knows the real Aoi. Nova Side Rondo is an interesting way that D4DJ ended the Nova Side stories, as it is predominantly a character backstory. D4DJ finally tipped their hand to show the audience just how little of Aoi we actually know. Once again, D4DJ played up some masculine stereotypes where men are not open with their emotions and they keep themselves closed off to others, even to their closest friends. Aoi is also emotionally distant from the rest of Rondo, as she acts very tactically about international marketing as opposed to giving her thoughts on the Abyssmere challenge directly. Even when Aoi mentions that she might have a stalker, everyone else in Rondo makes a bigger deal out of it than Aoi herself does. Aoi is normally quite the stoic and emotionally stable character, which is easy to do when it is the other characters who are having character drama in most Rondo stories. However, it makes it difficult to actually explore Aoi's personality when she is being elusive with her own emotions by maintaining that visage of stoicism. So, how will D4DJ have us learn more about Aoi? By doing the expected thing to do. Aoi was followed by a freelance reporter who wanted to ask questions about Aoi's family life and her relationship with her parents. It dawns on the rest of Rondo that they know very little of Aoi's personal life. Aoi tells the rest of Rondo that there isn't much to talk about, since she always felt as if there was distance between her and her parents, which made her feel as if her parents didn't care about her. This is perhaps the root of Aoi's struggle to be honest and forthcoming with her personal life. Aoi shrugs it off as no big deal, as she is more focused on maintaining the cool and collected nature of the punk rocker motif Rondo's got going on. The question of Aoi's parentage brings to light that Aoi has an image that is expected to be maintained for the sake of Rondo's image.
私からすれば羨ましいけどな。うちの母ちゃんなんてすっげえ口うるさいし。でもそれが親の愛情だと思う。私はその愛情を感じたことがないんだ。それでも両親を困らせたくはなかったから、不満や負の感情は一切表に出さないようにして。
もしかしてそれが親元を離れて一人暮らしするようになった理由なの？
うん。家を出るって話した時も特に反対はされなくて、好きにしていいって。どういうことだ？葵のことが嫌いなわけじゃないんだろ？わからない。今でも時々連絡はくれるけど、お互い話したいことも見つからないんだ。
The big plot twist of Nova's side Rondo is that Aoi is actually the unknown daughter of a man named Miyake Aoi, an in-universe famous Japanese actor who died in a car accident. Not only does Rondo know very little about Aoi, Aoi knows very little about Aoi. As a result, she locks herself in her apartment as reporters and journalists harass her about this revelation, and now must deal with her inner thoughts and feelings alone. Then some wompy-bompy shonen hero trope enters the story, where Aoi is faced with her dark emotions. The expected dialogue ensues where Dark Aoi reveals herself as the manifestation of Aoi's natural tendency to distance herself from others. Aoi being forced to confront the fact that in meeting expectations to be tough and confident as Rondo's leader, she realizes that she hasn't been honest with Rondo and her expectations that she has put upon herself, creating barriers from others seeing her real self.
子供に罪はないからね。でも本当は二人とも出て行ってくれてせいせいしたんじゃないかな。優しさというのは残酷だよ。相手と分かり合うことを諦めた時、人は優しくなれるんだ。違う。分かっているはずだよ。問題は両親が真実を隠していたことじゃない。真実を見ようとしなかった自分自身だ。親に捨てられ、誰からも愛されずこの世に生まれた。それが自分だ。違う！自分は一体何者なんだ？
Fortunately for Aoi, with the power of God and anime on her side, she has a power of friendship moment where from the ether, she gets moral support from the rest of Rondo. This bit of the story seems extremely contrived, but then again, D4DJ has aliens, psychic conversations, and a DJ unit vocalist who is just anime Skynet, which makes this moment actually pretty tame in comparison. This moral boost is just what Aoi needs to be emotionally vulnerable and accepts the love of Rondo, which gives her the strength to dispel Dark Aoi.
私の声が聞こえる？
スワキ。
私たちはあなたに救われた。今度は私たちがあなたを救う番よ。
聞こえるか、葵。カレンデュラの音色が。こいつの音は心に深く刺さって泣けなくなる。お前がどこにいようとこいつの音で引きずり出してみせるぜ。なんせ私はおせっかいだからな。
恐れないで、葵くん。あなたの居場所はここにあるわ。
さあ、来なさい、葵。
嘘だ。他人に私の何がわかる？ やっと正体が分かったよ。お前は私自身の弱さだ。両親に愛されたくて傷つきたくなくて自分に嘘をつき続けた結果、私の中にお前が生まれた。私は両親に愛されなかったんじゃない。自分の弱さを愛せなかっただけだ。傷つくことを恐れてもいい。お前も私自身なんだ。私は今すぐ椿たちに会いたい。みんなすぐに行くよ。
D4DJ then does what the audience expects, but is supposed to be surprising to Rondo and the in-universe audience of their live show. Aoi announces that they will accept Abyssmare's challenge. I mean, we expect it because this is how the Nova story is supposed to progress, but it is funny that everyone in the story acts remotely surprised by this decision. Nova side Rondo ends with Aoi coming to terms with her birth parents and accepting her aunt and uncle's love for her. This is a rare opportunity where Aoi is the center of the character drama in a Rondo story, and that means Aoi does not need to keep her guard up and be honest with her feelings. You know, one day, I might make that Tsubaki video essay and go into how she hogs a lot of the character drama for Rondo, so that she can be the D4DJ main character who grows the most. But for now, we can appreciate Aoi's break from being the stoic one and receive the emotional drama for today.
それが分かっただけでいいんだ。ありがとう、父さん、母さん。
After visiting Aoi's birth parents' graves, Rondo moves forward prepared to face Abyssmare. There is a quick montage of the other units post Nova side stories to show how their lives are moving forward, despite time being frozen in groovy mix. With Aoi willing to break out of her expected mold serves a larger narrative purpose for the rest of the Nova story. Aoi, who is normally the character who falls into line when it comes to living up to expectations of others, is willing to embrace a bit of chaos, which means that the audience cannot expect anything from the rest of Nova.
ニューヨークの街、やっぱりすごいな。ファッションもグルメも世界最先端。ブラブラ散歩するだけでもすごく刺激を与えてくれる。それにちょっとしたものがすごく可愛いんだよね。このジャムも瓶が可愛くて思わず買っちゃった。試食したら味も最高だったしね。
ミーティングに遅れる。くそ、まさか寝坊とはうかつだったぜ。トースト食べきる時間もね
おっと、
てめえ気をつけやがれ。
ごめんなさい。少しぼーっとしていたみたいで。大丈夫ですか？
おう